Let's talk about glasses. So whenever you drink champagne, the first thing you got to do is, well, pour it into a glass. Can't start without a glass. So a lot of different glasses exist when it comes to the right one. Well, it 100% depends on you. Is there the right or wrong glass? No, there isn't, with one possible exception. But for the most part, it doesn't make a difference. Whatever glass makes you feel good, whatever glass feels good in your hand, that's the glass you use. Okay, I don't care. As long as it isn't a red Solo cup or a water glass, you're fine. And why do people care? Why should you care? Well, I'll show you. This is your typical wine glass, okay? Nothing special, okay? As a matter of fact, this is one of my personal favorites. It is the first glass that I started to use when I started drinking champagne. I liked it. It's solid crystal. It's very heavy. It's got a nice feel to it. I love the way that sounds. So what you want is a glass that is shaped in a way that highlights both the bubbles and the bouquet of the champagne. This glass, unfortunately, really does neither. But I love the glass. It's beautiful. It's heavy. It's solid crystal. I just love the way that sounds. It's one of my favorites. So this is your average, everyday, run-of-the-mill wine glass. As you can see, it has got a narrow bottom and a wide opening. And this is the exact opposite of what you want when it comes to a good champagne glass. You've got this giant nose and this little bit of volume down at the bottom. It's just not, it'll work, just like the first one, but this just is not the right glass to use for champagne. Can you use it? Of course. Do I use it? I don't, but I have no problem pouring this for someone who wants a glass of champagne. So let's talk about, this is more like a goblet, okay? This was actually a wedding gift. I think I got like 14 of them. They're beautiful, solid crystal. They're just fantastic, but this is not a wine glass. This is not a champagne glass. It's like a multi-purpose glass. You can pour wine in it, you can pour liqueur in it. They're just really nice. And people do reach for these for champagne glasses. And again, if you look at it, the bottom is very narrow and it funnels up to a big opening. This just is, again, you're not gonna capture everything that a champagne has to offer, okay? So unfortunately, not so good. Let's talk about the Tulip. Now, a lot of people will say this is the champagne glass. If you look at it, nice big opening here in the middle, okay? Yep, it does funnel down at the bottom, but the wide bottom here allows for a maximum amount of air contact to the champagne, allowing it to breathe and allowing the effervescence of the bouquet to come out. And as you can see, it rises up and funnels to a narrow opening. This, if you're gonna pick a champagne glass, this is the best place to start. As a matter of fact, when I started doing these videos, this was my glass. This is my glass that I chose. I still keep it, but there's something better than this, and we're gonna get to that in a second. The good old-fashioned flute, okay? I have a special place in my heart for the flute. People always think of the flute when it comes to champagne. When there's a toast, a new baby, at a wedding, it's always a flute. This one is big, okay? Nothing wrong with it. It is just very, very big. I find it awkward, and it's got a lot of volume to it. But again, it's narrow here at the bottom, and it doesn't really open up too much at the base. And then again, it narrows at the top, and that's fine. It's kind of got the right idea, but it's big. But great glass, nothing wrong with this. But when you want a flute, this is a flute. I have a special place in my heart for the flute, this one in particular. A flute should be crystal. I know there's controversy about lead crystal, but it should be crystal. Crystal can be made very, very thin, and you want that thin glass, that thin silhouette to highlight your champagne. The flute is when the vessel is just as important and sometimes more important as what actually goes in it. The flute is going to highlight the aesthetic of the champagne. The bubbles are going to be so beautiful in a flute. You'll see them rise, you'll see them circle up. They're just beautiful. But unfortunately, when it comes to consuming your champagne and actually enjoying it, this is really the wrong glass. It has the same problem as some of the other glasses we've talked about. It has a narrow bottom. It doesn't really open up too much and then funnels to a very narrow opening. It doesn't have enough room to actually capture the bouquet of the champagne, and that is a huge, huge part of it. The bouquet is a critical point. Champagne should look good, smell good, taste good, and if you can't capture that bouquet, you're missing out on a key element. However, this is still the glass. When you are celebrating, you have a good moment, there's something going on, you reach for a flute. But there's still one glass I want to talk about. One more glass. This one. So this, I will call this a Grand Cru glass. This is a tasting glass. This, if you look at that wide base, there's so much room for the champagne to open up and breathe. And even though it does funnel up, it's a big opening for you to actually get your nose into the glass. The other glasses, the smaller ones, the flutes, even the Tulip to a small degree, they just don't have enough room to get your nose in there. And that's the point. You got to get your nose in there to smell it. This, if you ask me, this is the ideal champagne glass for drinking. This is the glass you reach for to taste. This is the glass you reach for when you just want to have a glass of champagne. This is the glass that is going to give you the best of everything. And you'll find the style kind of everywhere, but just depending on what manufacturer, they label them as just a white wine glass or a wine glass. So if you're going to get into glasses, look around, and you're going to have to buy a few and pick one that you like. If you like to drink your champagne out of one of these, go do it. Do it. Anybody who looks at you funny while you are pouring yourself a glass of champagne and you reach for this glass and they look at you funny, kick them out, okay? I mean, don't come into my house while I'm pouring you champagne and criticize me on the glass I choose to use. As long as it's not a red Solo cup, it shouldn't make a difference. Leave me alone. Now, you're all gonna say, wait a minute, you're missing a glass. You're missing something. No, I'm not. And I'm gonna get on a soapbox and I'm gonna pontificate. Yes, I am missing the Coupe. And I'll tell you why I'm missing the Coupe. It is the worst glass on earth to use for champagne. The Coupe is better designed as an ice cream dish than anything else. Here's why. It is very, very short. It is very, very wide. It does not give you any opportunity to sample the magnificent attributes of champagne. You cannot get a good bouquet of it. There's just too much surface space, too much surface area, and it is all exposed to the atmosphere. You can't get your nose into it to get close enough to sample it. It is so squat that holding it, you have to hold it in the palm of your hand like this, or else it's too unruly and you can tip it. And when you hold it like that, you are putting the champagne glass in direct contact with your hands. And let's be honest, our hands can get very hot. And the one thing we do not want our champagne to do is get warm. So when it's in direct contact with your mitts, it's gonna warm up, and that's just not good champagne. You're just wasting good champagne, whether you bought it, someone else bought it. the Coupe is just the wrong glass. You can't enjoy any of the bubbles because they just come right up and all you see is the bubbles. And it was so bubbly when people drank it. They actually, back in the old days when people were drinking champagne out of the Coupe, they would have these little swizzlers that they would stir the champagne up with to release the gas because the gas was too much. You know those old jokes when women in the 30s and 40s would say, oh, I don't drink champagne because it tickles my nose? Well, that's because you are so close to the champagne, and champagne is volatile. It's bubbly, it's alive, it's active, and all those little bubbles popping up into your nose, it's uncomfortable. So the Coupe is just the wrong glass. So again, thank you guys for spending a little bit of time with us on a little bit more of an educational video versus a champagne tasting video. These are my glasses. I've got a lot more, but these are the ones that that I have used for drinking champagne for one reason or one event or another, and I will not hesitate to use any of them, but I have my favorite, and when I drink out of this, I just feel like I'm on top of the world. So until the next time, champagne every day. Thank you.